Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Welcome to the 88 MPH Community Call, the call that's always jam-packed with the best crypto guest projects within the DeFi space, serious alpha leaks, and more. My name is Whipper, and I'm a crypto enthusiast and a community volunteer at 88 MPH. Alongside me, we have McFly and Steven, who are no strangers to the industry and definitely don't need an introduction as their reputation speaks for them. Today's call is going to be jam-packed with valuable information, so make sure to stay tuned all the way to the end. Today we have the very special pleasure of hosting Superfluid Finance, one of the most interesting projects being built out. Before we start the call, I'd like to remind everyone here on stage to please keep their mics muted unless they're speaking. If you have any questions or comments during the call, please feel free to raise your hand so we can bring you up on stage. For the sake of getting more community engagement during these calls, we've changed the format to an open-style discussion, so feel free to jump in with your questions or comments at any time. Simply just raise your hand to get our attention. As with tradition here at 88 MPH, we will be closing the call with a $100 raffle giveaway in the form of 1 MPH, as well as minting POAPs for those who join the call. On the agenda today, we will be discussing payments, subscriptions, and salaries within the crypto space, gasless transfers and the endless opportunities they present, news and updates from both 88 MPH and Superfluid Finance, followed by our raffle and the minting of our POAPs. With that, I'd like to open the call with Mike from Superfluid Finance. Can you please give us a brief introduction into who you are, how you got into the crypto space, and what is Superfluid Finance?
Hey guys, with great pleasure to be here today on the call. So I'm Mike. My background has always been somewhat in engineering. I was fascinated by scientists when I was a kid that could, build basically something magical using technology. And I always studied engineering until I realized that just creating new technology without distribution to the masses is somewhat meaningless, and is only when we get to use the technology that we get the benefit from it. So I went to Silicon Valley early on, just after graduating, and I tried to learn from the masters of the game in the tech startup scene there. That led me to create a couple documentaries about startups, one about Silicon Valley, one about Europe, that are free available on YouTube for everyone. The most known one is called Welcome to Silicon Valley, if you want to check it out. And then I got headhunted to work for a robotic company that was building bartenders using robotic arms for automotive production lines, which was a lot of fun. And I almost went to burnout there because I was the only business person, let's say, in a fully engineered team of 5 people. And I wanted to catch my breath. And that's when I moved to London and I joined more the VC venture capital space that allowed me to research and a little bit catch my breath, let's say. That was 2015, and that's when I heard about this thing called Ethereum. So I had to dive in. I was not sold onto the Bitcoin idea, but I definitely was sold on the programmable money idea. So I went straight down the rabbit hole. And while I was doing my daily job in researching entrepreneurship and new tech companies that were innovating the world we live in, my side gig was always looking at Ethereum. As for many of you, I guess my side gig became my main gig because it's just so interesting and fascinating. So attending a bunch of conferences, I met so many of the early people in the community, especially in the Ethereum community. And that's also how I met Francesco and Miao, that were building a concept called RDAI, basically a token that would allow you to lock your DAI in compound and redirect the interest you get on your DAI to another address. And that's why they called it RDAI, so redeemable DAI. We bounced a few ideas around at Berlin Blockchain Week in 2019, and that's when we decided the world deserved a more expressive money layer that allows them to basically connect different parties with money streams. And that was the kind of birth of Superfluid that we started building kind of on a full-time basis in February of 2020. And now we are on to basically rally a community to build real-time finance with us.
That's awesome. Mike, sounds so interesting, and we're so excited to do a deep dive and to learn more about it. McFly, I do see that we have some new guests joining us, I guess, from the Superfluid community. I was wondering if you could just give them a quick intro into what 88 MPH is.
Yep, sure, with pleasure. Welcome everyone. I'm McFly. I'm the co-founder of 88MPH. 88MPH is a protocol offering fixed yield rate on your assets. So we mainly support stable coins and different versions of Bitcoin, Link, ETH, and other blue chip coins out there in DeFi. So that's the main product, and like the secondary product is a yield token, allowing you to speculate on future yield on the underlying protocol we are using, like Aave or Compound. So you can speculate on that if you are bullish on the market rate for the different assets we are supporting, or if you want to hedge your borrowing cost on Compound or Aave, for example. So yeah, check that. It's live on 88mph.app. And we are on Avalanche and Phantom, Polygon, and of course FR mainnet. And we are going to launch our bridge for the full ecosystem of the multi-chain we are supporting in a few days. So yeah, stay tuned.
Thanks for that, McFly. All right, so I'd like to get started with the first segment of our call, which is going to be focused around payments, subscriptions, and salaries within the crypto space. So it's no surprise that the industry has been in need for an easy payment, subscription, and salary model that works. And finally, it looks like we have something like Superfluid. Mike, take us back to the beginning. What was the motivation behind the project, and what sort of needs does Superfluid hope to address?
Sure. So, I mean, I don't know if you ever had the need or the desire to have something like subscriptions in Web3, or create some sort of recurring payment that is automated over time. But the level of security of blockchain only really allows push payments. So you can send a token from your wallet only if you sign your transaction. You don't really want to delegate that power, because that's the whole purpose of having sovereignty on your funds. Now, if you look at Web 2, most of the internet economy has been built on subscriptions models with software as a service. And if you look at crypto, most of crypto has been built on tokens. And sometimes the token economy has not really been through, or the products are somewhat constricted by the fact that you have to pay with a native token of the project. While if you look at the whole industry of, for example, content creators, they all just want to be sustainable, or just get compensated for the art they create, or the videos they make. And so they just look for something simple. They might not want to commit to a full token, or just managing their whole token economy. And so they just want to find a solution which is simple and straightforward to monetize their items, their creations. And so when we looked into how this was possible on chain, there wasn't very much. There wasn't a lot of solutions out there that allowed this to happen. In particular, most of the kind of payment solutions out there were one-off. So, for example, the e-commerce solution. So you just go to, I don't know, Coinbase Commerce, and you use that to pay in crypto. But really, none of them was allowing this kind of recursive item. And at the same time, so this was one first motivation to start Superfluid. The second one was a bit more fundamental, a bit more philosophical. So if you think about how you pay for your Netflix today, for example, you subscribe on Netflix right now because you want to watch a movie, and you do it in real time. The moment you sign up, you have access to the platform. And the moment you sign up, you can start streaming videos and access them. The same is true when you want to stop. Normally, you stop immediately, and the service stops as well. And the payments are somewhat disconnected entirely from that, because the payments might just happen once a month. And if you if you stop early, maybe the payment still goes through for days that you don't really use the service, and so on and so forth. So we thought, it doesn't sound quite right. It would be fairer or more fair in principle if you could have the service provision coupled with the payment, so that as the service streams to you in real time, you could stream value back in return. And so Superfluid really was born to couple that and make sure that as we provide services, we get compensated. Probably the best example of this is when you work for an entity or a DAO, you don't provide all of your work on the 25th of the month. For example, when someone sends you the compensation in a transaction, you kind of do that every day for quite a while. And so by basically paying you back in real time, you de-risk the transaction on both sides. Because if you've worked for 5 days and then they stop the stream, you are alerted in real time. And at the same time, if you stop working, that can stop the stream in return. So I think it's kind of the ultimate, most fair value transfer for service provision we can think of.
You know, Mike, what's interesting is it also provides a safety mechanism for both the vendor and supplier or vendor and customer example, you know, because both people know that they're getting paid immediately. When you're working for a DAO or if you're working for a company, yeah, you don't really know that they'll have the funds at the end of the day. But when you're getting streamed, at least you're seeing it in real time. Could you take us through an example of how, let's just say, a payment feature works on Superfluid, maybe starting from start to scratch, basically?
Sure. So we didn't want to build a service. In fact, we have built a protocol, and we don't provide payment services. We have built infrastructure that allows anyone to build anything they can come up with on top of Superfluid. So it's very much like Ethereum, but for money streaming. It's composable, it's modular. We have open source Solidity contracts, but we also have an SDK. This means that any developer in the Web3 world can integrate our smart contracts into any solution they want to build to then use this kind of real-time finance rails for the value transfer they have in mind. So there is no restriction on tokens. On all ERC20 tokens can be transferred in a streaming fashion. And we made very easy to use SDK so that even Web2 developers could eventually use the SDK to interact with the protocol on EVM compatible chains, then leverage real-time finance. To explain to everyone how this works, we also created a dashboard, which is easy to use and visualizes the protocol underneath it. And so the dashboard is something you can possibly use today to open and edit and close a stream to anyone else just using an Ethereum address. So since this is quite new, we wanted to make sure that everything was fine. So the community actually deployed the protocol on Polygon and XDAI, looking at that as a testbed for Ethereum mainnet and L2s and eventually all other EVM compatible chains and beyond. So if you want to have an example of how this works in practice, it basically means you have some tokens, let's say some DAI, and you have those on Polygon. All you will need to do is just come to app.superfluid.finance to access the dashboard. You will need to wrap your tokens into a standard, which we call super tokens, which adds and enhances the capabilities of the token to be streamed. And once it's wrapped, you can just simply click send, input an address, and then start the stream with a transaction on chain. Now, while the stream is running, there is no gas consumption. So the stream keeps flowing without consuming any gas. Also, the receiver that gets the stream can decide to spend it in real time as he gets it. So there is no locking or withdrawal needed. And so that person can forward it on to someone else or some other service provider, and also can use applications that are built on Superfluid to then do things like investing in real time. For example, Ricochet, which is an application just went live a couple months ago, allows you to DCA, so dollars cost average, into any asset on their system. So you can buy Ether effectively every second with a stream. So it's very simple. The user dashboard is meant to be a window into the world of Superfluid, but the real core of what we're building is literally the infrastructure that powers everything. And we are looking for anyone who wants to experiment with this to build with Superfluid using our docs, which are quite easy to go through. So if you feel like you want to build something that is using real-time finance underneath, come talk to us, come to our Discord. We'll love to help you out.
Thanks, Mike. We have a question from Matthew, who's with us on the stage. Matthew, feel free to jump in.
Thanks, Whipper. Hey, Mike, I just went on your website and saw that you are an XDAI and Matic. Are you planning to be able to use like Arbitrum, Optimus, or even Mainnet and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So we believe Mainnet will have some friction for payments and streams just because of the gas fees and the gas wars that can happen, and also the spikes in gas price that happened in the past, for example, with maker liquidations. But L2s are extremely promising. We ultimately don't really control where Superfluid will be deployed because the community has the ultimate saying. So if many people find that Arbitrum is important or useful, I'm sure that there will be a deployment on Arbitrum as well. I think L2s are seeing a lot of DAOs interested and a lot of applications and DeFi interested in being present. And therefore, I expect that value transfer that happen in real time will also be present on those networks.
Awesome. And another question for you. So you're talking about streaming an amount of money, or like not as like a payment, but like could that be used for like, let's say, a monthly payment for a newsletter or services that you use? Is that something that could be used for that?
Yes. So we designed the protocol to be extremely generic and modular. So you really can build a lot of custom logic into it. One of the ventures that has been built on Superfluid in the last months is Diagonal. Diagonal, you can check it out at diagonal.finance. They are still just in early alpha. What they are building is a system that allows you to connect your address, and then generate a service of any sort. It can be a newsletter subscription, it can be a SaaS service, it can be even a payroll. And you can then send a link to anyone, which is like a payment link, that they can click and then use to open a stream to you as a subscription, in fact. They also have paired this with a very nice NFT reward incentive structure, which we find kind of fascinating. Also because we have built Superfluid in a way that you can send streams to NFTs. So you can stream to an NFT owner. And as that NFT changes hands, the stream is redirected automatically. Meaning, if you are the tenant of a house and you pay rent to your landlord and your house is effectively an NFT, then the stream will redirect to the new owner once the owner sells that house. In the same fashion that if you build a great newsletter that has a lot of audience, and then you make that a little bit of a business, and then you want to sell that business, and that is an NFT, it means you can send that NFT to another address, and all the income streams will be deflected to that new address down the line, which allows you basically to OpenSea your business and transfer the NFT in the secondary market.
Thanks. Super interesting. Thanks, Whipper.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love that last concept that you just mentioned. I believe Steven has a question. Steven, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Mike, for hopping on here with us. I'm really liking this documentation I'm going through, specifically on the super apps section of the tutorials. I was reading that you can set up custom logic for those streams to change what an output would be. And I really like that example of transferring an NFT to a new owner, and whatever that stream attached to the NFT is would go towards the new owner. But what else? Do you have some more examples of what can be done with that? Can that logic be treated as a sort of contract agreement? And how would that be managed if that's possible?
Yeah, so I don't know which part of the docs you were looking at, but there is also the opportunity to use callbacks. So, for example, you can have a contract to react to a stream being open to it. We have this kind of after agreement created callback that allows you to create smart logic so that if I open a stream to a contract, something is triggered in the blockchain. So, for example, you can do a streaming ICO that way. For example, I stream you DAI, and then you send me back your own token in a constant sale. You can use that to create exchanges that work with streams. You can use that to create affiliate marketing campaigns and all sorts of things. So if you want to go to a page called hack.superfluid.finance, you will see a bunch of examples of the applications that hackathon community members have been creating on top of our framework. I think so far we got about 200 projects built on the Superfluid framework at several hackathons, and we can't wait to see what the community builds next, because there's some of those we couldn't even imagine.
So it sounds like this tech could also be used for like split NFT projects, revenue sharing, and video streaming. Could you talk a little bit about how Superfluid could achieve these goals and how you see this playing out with your tech?
Yeah, so we really want to just provide the base layer. So we feel ourselves as a little bit the infrastructure keepers or providers here. So it would be down to the community to decide, what the technology is valuable for. I have seen examples of applications where you pay by the second in a consumption fashion. So you watch, 20 minutes of a video, and you only paid for those 20 minutes instead of the full hour, which is kind of interesting to me, because if the next part of the video wasn't relevant, why should I pay for the full video? In the same fashion that, we used to buy CDs with a bunch of songs in them, and then with the different, the iTunes and the different platforms out there, now we can pay per song, and eventually we can pay for a bundle of songs like Spotify. So I do see a lot of these models potentially coming to Web3 thanks to real-time finance and Superfluid protocol. On the other side, we don't want to build our own services on top of Superfluid for clear reasons, and we don't want to compete with the broader community, especially being an open source project. Everything can really be done with it. So I'd like to hear, maybe from you guys at 88 MPH, maybe some DeFi applications. And I mean, you can split interest with Superfluid. You can create options with Superfluid, and so that's something that we're really keen on exploring. Well, what are your thoughts on this?
I love that idea. And like one other thing I noticed that's also something that could be done with this sort of thing is like donations, for example. So let's just say you've invested in a product in 88 MPH and you want to donate, let's just say the interest that's coming in from the product. You can actually donate it, like using it as a stream. I think that that's a really cool idea that could be done. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Whipper. And Michele, during our last call, we are discussing some new features that we want to develop, or we want to explore at least with 88 MPH. And one of them is basically integrate, maybe build another application where you can redirect a part of your salary to a passive income product, like basically just saving 10% of your incomes and redirecting all of that into 88 MPH just to earn some fixed yield rate on top of that. Probably it's not us that we will build that, but we can definitely incentivize this kind of project with the hackathon we are supporting. And I definitely see some automating money flow is really a big thing. It make me think about Zapier. I don't know if you use that. It's a Web2 application, and I was like a EV user of that thing, like automating everything I can. And I suppose doing the same thing for everything that is stored as a capital directly on Web3 is really needed too.
Yeah, it sounds really, really interesting. Mike, where can people deploy right now this open source tech? Is it exclusive to any chain? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so at the moment it's only VM compatible. It would take a while to refactor the code to deploy non-EVM chains. There is a little bit of infrastructure needed to make sure everything functions well. So you basically need the same infrastructure you would need to run a node. It's very similar to MakerDAO keepers. So that's something that is needed to have a successful deployment. Otherwise, the system wouldn't work well. So we still need some actors that are willing to take on that responsibility to maintain those nodes in the desired network to make sure everything is smooth. And so that's kind of the current limitation. It's not something you can just plug into Arbitrum out of the box and it just works. You can do that. There is a deployment guide on our docs, but you still need that infrastructure in place that you can run yourself. We actually are running an alpha program right now to onboard more of these keepers. We are calling Sentinels to the system. And so if you're interested in deploying in other networks, please reach out to our Discord and talk to Fran /Superfluid. He's going to help you out with onboarding in this world of Superfluid and understand how you can run the infrastructure as well. We are making it such that hopefully you can run it on a Raspberry Pi. So it wouldn't take a lot of computation power away from you. And the same for bandwidth. So we're really trying to put our efforts to make this as distributed and not decentralized as possible, just because distributed means there is no centralization of nodes that just have higher degree of control. So if you're interested in deploying to other networks, we are all ears. That's all we need. Come talk to us.
And Mike, is there? I'm assuming there's some sort of incentive, I guess, to run a node. Do you guys have a token or a plan to launch a token? And if so, is that token staked in a way? Could you talk a little bit about what's involved in running a node?
Yeah, so it's super early days. Imagine MakerDAO in 2015, 2013. So we don't have a token at the moment. We would consider a token only if it actually makes sense to run the protocol. We are defining the incentive structure with the early contributors in our community. So we literally launched this 2 weeks ago. So it's something that is really in definition still, and we would love to craft together. So maybe even you guys can have some ideas on how to make the incentive sustainable. The current ideas that came around were to make it sustainable via creating an incentive structure on native tokens that are other than a new token. So using the existing ones, because the value of DAI or USDC is a lot clearer to the community than the value of a new token, for example. But that might change over time. So please help if you are deep in token economics and want to help out with this one. It's something that we literally just opened up 2 weeks ago. And again, for anyone interested, we'd love to talk.
Yeah, Mike, maybe towards the end of the call, you can drop some of your own contact info within the general chat, maybe like a Twitter handle or something, just so that those that are listening in the audience have a way to follow you guys. With that being said, I'm just going to pause real quick here just to check in the audience to see if anyone has a question or a comment. Please feel free to raise your hand so we can bring you up on stage. While we're waiting, I'll sort of leap into the next question, which, so I was looking at the website and the dashboard. So I understand that to use the tech, you have to sort of wrap the tokens, like a regular ERC20 token, into, I guess it's like a new version. I guess you guys added an X at the end of it. Could you talk a little bit about how this is done? Could you talk about whether or not the funds are still self-custody or not? Are they locked in a smart contract? I'd love to be able to hear a little bit more about the process once you wrap this token.
Sure. So the need for wrapping tokens comes from the ERC20 standard. So ERC20 is great because it's diffused, everyone is using it, and allows the interoperability that powers DeFi. But it is really limited to some degree, and it basically would never allow a dynamic stream, which is happening gasless on EVM. And that's where we had to create a new token standard that has this capability and enhances the ERC20. So the architecture at the moment works like this. You take any ERC20 that you fancy streaming, and you deploy your wrapper on any network, say Polygon for simplicity. Once the wrapper has been deployed by anyone in the community, any other person can use that wrapper to wrap their token. So we only need one wrapper per token, even though there could be multiple. And that wrapper is a one-to-one wrapping, the same way Aave DAI works. So A DAI is one-to-one with DAI, and Super DAI is one-to-one with DAI as well. And it's absolutely non-custodial. So the original token is held on the smart contract, and then the new super token is minted. And then once you redeem that against the previous assets, you basically burn it. And so that the kind of balance stays the same over time. So this is, again, open. For example, if you guys want to start streaming your token, you can do that yourself. There is a lot of guidance on our website on the docs how to do that yourself. We are happy to help if you need to, but we really do not want to create any centralization, so everyone is able to do that.
Thanks, Mike. I believe Steven has a question. Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, Mike, regarding that wrapped discussion you just had in having virtually no gas fees to no gas fees, how much of that is done off-chain? If
So
any.
this is what puzzles everybody. None of that is done off-chain. It's entirely on-chain. The infrastructure we have off-chain, which is the Sentinels network I was talking about, is just meant to make sure that there is that basically the whole system stays solvent at all times, and there is no tentative to hijack the system or have any malicious activity. It literally is just a safety system to make sure that the system doesn't go in overdrive and then anyone can actually get hurt. So the actual streaming is gasless because we can leverage the way EVM compatible chains work with the miners doing the work to actually move the funds without having to do any computations. So I don't know, if you want to be a little bit technical here, I'll take the freedom to do so. We are using time as the key variable to move streams. And since time is something that is brought forward by block production, and block production is brought forward by miners or validators, the fact that they're generating the blocks every 6 seconds, 12 seconds is what allows us to create streams that happen with no gas.
Is that possible to be done with two different tokens? Like, I'm wondering that structure, is that something that has applications aside from just streaming one token? Because you could essentially create what a lot of these layer 2s are doing in essence with other aspects of DeFi, if I'm understanding what you're saying.
What do you mean with like two tokens?
So whether that be swapping, or say you wanted to stream one token and at some point in the middle of that swap it to another token, is there a way to do that with using what you're mentioning without having to actually use gas? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. And let me explain you why. If you want to swap tokens, if you want to exchange, then there needs to be some sort of liquidity somewhere to then allow you to do that exchange. And sometimes the provision of that liquidity cannot really happen in a stream. We have been investigating with economists and mathematicians as well how to actually do that in real time. So if you can actually swap in real time. So far, the solutions that both us and the community have come up with basically virtualize that by streaming to a smart contract that then goes on to an exchange in an async fashion. So you stream per second to the contract, and every, say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, the contract goes on to Uniswap or SushiSwap, does the swap for you, and then sends you back the other token you're looking for. We couldn't find yet an architecture that would allow the whole process to happen in real-time finance rails. But there are some teams that are working on it. They are super smart, so we are confident that they will probably crack it at some point.
Great. I was picturing similar to what you were saying, but to deal with that liquidity, I'm sure it would require a lack of self-custody in that process. So probably not the focus of what you're doing.
Yeah, possibly.
Great questions, Stephen, and great answers, Mike. Thanks for that. I just wanted to make sure I understood everything correctly with regards to this self custody. So once it's wrapped, you now have a unique token which you can add into, let's just say, your own MetaMask, and that stays in your wallet. And then you now have the option or the capability to start streaming to pretty much anyone, right?
Yeah, so basically when you've wrapped the token, let's say you've wrapped DAI for Super DAI, you are sending effectively your DAI to the smart contract, which is the wrapper. And immediately as you do, the smart contract sends you back an equivalent amount of Super DAI in your wallet. That means that from your MetaMask or Gnosis Safe, you can start streaming from your wallet without any intermediary. And so much so that if you stream, you say, between two MetaMask wallets, you actually see the value of the tokens in the MetaMask change over time because there is a stream ongoing. So your MetaMask will reflect the time. I think there's few seconds update just because of the UI of how MetaMask work. But you see actually your DAI X balance ticking upward if someone is streaming it to you.
Wow, this technology just sounds so amazing. I'm super excited to learn more about this stuff. This is incredible. Just the different things that it opens up and allows users to do within crypto. It's just unbelievable. It's so cool. Mike, I was wondering, one of the coolest things, I love this concept of like a gasless transfer. I'd love to understand how this is done. Maybe you can try, even if it's like on a technical level. I'm sure everyone would love to understand how that actually happens. We're so used to like any transaction that goes through is just a simple, on-chain transaction with a gas fee. How do you guys actually achieve this gasless transfer?
So I'll put my hands forward here because I'm not technical enough to probably go through the code with you. But I'll try to take more kind of high-level approach to explain you how it actually works. So we are all used to the blockchain as a way to change state in the EVM machine, and the change of state moves tokens or moves value or executes data. So whenever you broadcast a transaction to the network, what you're doing, you're effectively changing the state of the network or the ledger as well. Now, we have been thinking forever since money was invented that money transfer needs to be a state change of the network or of the server. What we have been doing is we have been writing a new type of smart contracts we are calling agreements. One of these agreements is called constant flow agreement, which is the kind of technical word for a stream. And this constant flow agreement has some logic inside where all you need to do on chain is to say, I, Mike, send 5 DAI per second to McFly. And all the blockchain needs to know is that I signed a transaction which says that I want to send 5 DAI per second to McFly. Now, assuming I have those in my wallet, the blockchain can go on, and once this has been, say, agreed, just keep transferring 5 DAI per second to McFly until I edit that amount or I stop the stream. There is no need for an input from my side to keep moving these funds because this has been, say, agreed on-chain. And that's why we also don't use any off-chain infrastructure to perform this, because we found a way to encode it on the blockchain that the computer, say the EVM or the virtual machine, transfers those 5 per second from my account to McFly account. So as that agreement is set in stone with the transactions, there's no need to then broadcast a transaction every second to actually make it happen, because the blockchain has a very clear idea of what time it is and what the agreement looks like.
Oh, that's brilliant. So like, also as an example, if a user, using the Netflix example, was to subscribe to a service and it's a monthly service or whatever, the user themselves, those funds in a way are locked, right? Like even though they can cancel at any time, it's like there's no funny business basically, like on either side of the party, right? Like once the agreement is made, it's made. You can't like withdraw the funds, like try to like I don't know, effectively try to steal from one party or the other. Could you? I'm assuming not, right? Because there's an agreement.
Yeah, so this is the other confusing part of the technology. So streams that as we imagine them, are somewhat open-ended. So there is no like end date as well. So imagine you wrap 100 die, and then imagine you want to send 10,000 die per month to someone. Basically, what would happen is that you could be able to start a 10,000 die per month stream with only 100, because all you need is enough to cover the next few hours of the stream, because the per second amount is the only value that matters. So as long as you have enough balance to fulfill that per second amount, everything is open for you. As soon as you hit zero, or you're not, or you have less than that per second amount, then the stream would stop. And that's one of the activities that we need our sentinels for. So making sure that once you hit zero balance, then the network stops your stream in an automated fashion. So that means that if you're paying Netflix $10 a month in a stream, they are not sure that you will pay all of that month, because at any time you can either cancel the stream and no one can stop you from doing that, or B, you can run out of money and then they will not have any stream anymore. So we are not providing safety about the fact that you will receive that amount for the full month, which is similar to like locking up funds in an escrow contract or doing an all upfront transaction, let's say. But we are ensuring both parties that they will always know if the funds are being transferred or not, and how much. So we really are changing the dynamics. Like, you don't like the product, you can stop the payment at any time. They don't want to provide it to you anymore, they can stop your own stream at any time. So it's very flexible. Is a new paradigm. You can always make it compatible with that full upfront payment world by coupling a normal transaction and the opening of a stream, or by doing some smart tricks. For example, I don't know, Netflix wants to give me the first month free, and then the stream keeps going. So when you subscribe, you send the stream to Netflix, and they have a smart contract that sends it back to you with a timer that counts for 30 days. When those 30 days stop, then they stop the stream back to you, and then the stream keeps going to them only. So this way, the first 30 days, your stream has a net zero because it goes to them and back to you, and it feels like a free trial. And then when that stops, they can stop their own stream to you, and your stream keeps flowing to them. So there's a whole lot of logic that needs to be rethought of, but is extremely powerful.
I love it, Mike. I can't wait to learn so much more about this. Steven, I think you've got a question. Please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, again. I appreciate all this explanation. Loving what you guys are doing. I had a question, or rather a situation I wanted to see if this is possible. I was reading about the constant flow agreement, and it was similar to what you were just talking, but would it be possible if instead of manually going in and stopping that flow, would you be able to, let's say, pull data from an oracle that then could stop that flow? And I ask that because it would be interesting if you could pay as somebody works on something rather than bidding for an entire job or position or activity. Let's say I wanted to pull data for how active an individual was on GitHub or in a community, or contributions on, say, a Trello, or kind of any business situation. Could this contract read that data and use it to stop the flow, let's say after 10 minutes of inactivity on whatever application this is, that data would get pulled and then the flow would stop? Is that currently possible to build on top of Superfluid?
Yes. So let me kind of dissect it a second. So we wanted to optimize for self-sovereignty, so you cannot do that natively from a wallet to another wallet. So if you want just if you pay from wallet to wallet, there is no way to automate the stopping of the stream, because one of the two wallets will need to make a signature and then broadcast the transaction to stop it effectively. However, you can do that with a super app or a smart contract logic, where you stream, for example, from your treasury to a super app, and that super app then reads an oracle and decides not only when to start or stop a stream, but also how much to send based on any data you can pull up from, blockchain or even Web2. So you can decide to send streams based on engagement. You can send streams based on time. You can send streams based on activity or completion of an activity with a tier system. It's really up to you, and that's why I love it so much, because it opens the door to any sort of logic.
That's amazing. Thank you. That I could see something like that completely changing the way that people work. Whether that be 20, 30 years down the line, I could see something like this really benefiting a lot of businesses.
Yeah, I totally agree too. Before we move on to the next segment of the call, I just want to pause real quick once again, check in the audience to see if anyone has a question. If so, please just raise your hand so we can bring you up on stage. But while we're waiting, so the next segment of the call is just going to be focused more around news and updates. Mike, what sort of things do you want to share with the audience today? Maybe some previous milestones that you guys passed, or maybe some really exciting things that you have upcoming that you think is worthwhile mentioning. We'd love to hear more about it. And also, please don't forget, at the end of the call, I'd really love for you to just drop some information where the audience can continue to follow the amazing success that you guys are happening with your project. We'd love to be able to follow it. So if you want to give us your Twitter handle or even your Discord invite or whatnot, we'd love to be able to have that.
Yes, before I forget, I'll probably just try to do it right away while we are talking. And news-wise, we are trying just to focus on making it as easy as possible for developers to learn and build with our technology in a very crowdsourced fashion. So one of the first things we have been trying to work on is building, let's say, visibility into the protocol. So since these tokens are not ERC20, they're super token standard, we don't have Etherscan working with 100% of the queries that regard Superfluid. So one of the first things we published is something called Console. You can find it at console.superfluid.finance. This is basically an explorer where you can type in any address and the system will crawl all networks where Superfluid has been deployed yet and tell you information about open streams, closed streams, and times in the different tokens, so that when you're developing a DApp or your own super app, you have the chance to debug it, you have the chance to understand what's going on, and have that visual way to interface with it as well, without a lot of kind of writing code for that. On the same note, earlier this week, we have been publishing a new version of our SAP graph. For those of you that know or use the graph, is extremely powerful. We added a lot of queries possible, and so you can find an article on Medium that I will also post in the general chat, where you have all the details of how the new SAP graph works. And that is probably one of the best ways to get started if you want to build your super app, like you were mentioning, Stephen. If you want to build a DApp that queries data from either your systems or the blockchain and then changes the value of the stream and starts and stops it, I think to kind of interface with Superfluid using the SDK package and the SAP graph would be extremely powerful for you. Other bits and pieces we're working on is simplifying the management of super apps and kind of the maintenance of super apps. So we're really trying to build tools on that direction. And we are looking at basically simplifying and making life easier for those that want to start using Superfluid for salary management. So both on the DAO side, so for the DAO admin, we have an app on Gnosis Safe you can use directly from the Gnosis Safe. But also for the recipients. And the recipients, when they get paid in a stream, they don't want to take all of that out to pay rent all the time. Sometimes they want to invest that, or they want to put it at work. So we've been trying to focus on building an ecosystem around Superfluid that allows it to do that. And that's why I was mentioning Ricochet Exchange, which is this new venture that has been growing and building on top of Superfluid. that you can just forward your salary to then buy different assets like Ether or Maker or other tokens. So those are some areas of interest. I think we will keep focusing on the protocol more just to make it simpler and easier to browse and go through.
That is amazing. Awesome. Thanks for that, Mike. Going to pass the mic real quick here to McFly, where we're going to focus these last couple of minutes on the call with regards to some news and updates with regards to 88 MPH. But Mike, please don't forget to drop that information in our general chat, and please stick around just in case anyone in the audience does have any questions for you before we wrap things up. So McFly, please feel free to take the mic.
Thanks, Weaver, and thanks, Mike. It was really insightful, this call. I learned more about Superfluid, so definitely looking forward for any updates there. So yeah, I think everyone is waiting us regarding the bridge. We are promising you that since 3 weeks, I think. So we are super close. We were a bit slow this week for various reasons, personal one, but also because like different things going on. But the main things we are trying to push this end of week, hopefully, is the front end for the bridge. So like the UI is done, design is done, but we still need to work on the front end to plug everything. We deployed one component of the bridge on mainnet. We still need to deploy the bridge, the converter, and the minter on Phantom. So that need to be done, and we will have also a time lock of 48 hours. So that's kind of like delay the deployment. But we are there. So hopefully before the end of this week, we can have something where we can start testing. Just for your information, guys, we are just going to deploy a bridge and the MPH minter to support natively MPH rewards on Phantom. The main reason is we want to test that on Phantom, and after we'll, if nothing horribly wrong happen, we will deploy that on Avalanche, on Polygon. But yeah, we are like going slowly with that. Don't break too much thing. And the bridge, of course, will have some limitation. Just to make sure we will increase the limitation of the bridge like over the following weeks, month. And yeah, just to make sure that we don't have any issue with that bridge after. But like mainly, like I suppose, like the main use case will be related to the MPH rewards on Polygon, so native rewards generated on Polygon, on Phantom. Sorry, I'm in doubt. A lot of you will bridge directly your MPH from Ethereum to Phantom, because there is not yet a lot of things to do on Phantom with your MPH. So like the bridge will have limitation, but I suppose it won't be too much limitation for you, at least at the beginning. So yeah, minter, converter bridge, all of that is being deployed on mainnet and on Phantom with a time lock, so 48-hour time lock. Regarding the dumper contract, we got some news for you guys. There was some discussion this week related to the staking rewards not being distributed. The main reason for that is the gas fee, like kind of like burning money to just distribute the reward right now, even if we are promising that on a bi-weekly basis, the protocol revenue will be distributed to MPH takers via the buyback mechanism. We are discussing like, is it better to do that on a monthly basis? Probably yes, at least on Ethereum mainnet. But we can do a proposal for that and ask everyone their opinion regarding that. So probably early next week, we will publish a proposal. You will be able to vote with your XMPH. We will update the snapshot for that, and we will decide what to do with the current rewards being accumulated in in the protocol, like the current revenue being accumulated in the protocol. And why I'm mentioning that, because like I was mentioning the dumper contract, and this dumper contract right now is doing only one thing: is able to distribute 100% of the protocol revenue for the buyback mechanism. So we are upgrading this dumper contract and allowing a certain percentage of the protocol revenue to be redirected to the governance treasury. So it's just an option. And of course, we will go for the governance to decide what we want to do with the protocol revenue for the next cycle of distribution. So do we want to keep it and build the governance treasury, having a working capital, having some protocol on liquidity, using some of the revenue to stake them on Aave, for example, to generate more revenue for the community. So there is many options. So all of that will be discussed on the forum and on Snapchat. Like we'll have votes and blah blah blah. So all of that we will try our best to ask you before doing anything with that. I think it's a good time right now. Like we are trying to stabilize the V3 after the fully multi-chain ecosystem deployed. It's the next logical big step for us is decentralizing as much as possible 88 MPH. So like all of that will take shape in the following weeks. And yeah, we will ask your opinions regarding all of that, especially regarding protocol revenue. Yeah, on other topics, we are sponsoring Chainlink Hackathon, the fall session. I did a workshop before yesterday with a Chainlink team, so it's live on the YouTube of Chainlink. So don't hesitate if you want to build something on top of 88 MPH during this Chainlink Hackathon. Check our workshop there. You will learn some stuff at least related to how to deploy 88 MPH, how to use the smart contracts and stuff like that. Completely different topic. We will have some merge. I mentioned that I think 1 month ago, and everything is in production right now. So we will have a bundle with a lot of different merge for 88 MPH. And all of that will be distributed at first with NFT. So if you want to redeem your merch after, you will need to burn the NFT and just fill in a form where you will be able to claim the physical product, the physical merch. So I'm cooking all of that with a friend in France. So yeah, he told me probably we will have all the products by end of this month because there is some product coming from France, over from US, and over from Morocco. So yeah, it's taking some weeks to put all of that together, but like everything is in production. So at least that's the good news. And the last thing, we have an update for the 88 MPH radio, the web radio. It's not yet deployed, but it's ready. So like the event we are waiting is crossing the $88 million worth of TVL. So probably this thing will happen with Phantom. And talking about Phantom deployment with a bridge with a native rewards, the strategy is we are prioritizing Phantom because there is Phantom Foundation. They said, okay, if you are reaching 5 million TVL at least for 2 months, for a 2-month period minimum, you will be in the incentive program of the Phantom Foundation. So what does it mean is we will be able to get vested over 12 months 1 million Phantom token. And with this Phantom token, we can do a lot of stuff. So all the Phantom token will go directly to the governance treasury, of course. But after, like there is some discussion currently happening in the Discord related to do we stake them after to earn more Phantom token, and we can do like buyback, a buyback mechanism for with the staking rewards to buy back some MPH, or we can do like other stuff like distributor, like having a dual rewards for depositor or for yield token buyer on Phantom. Building some liquidity also on Phantom, it will be needed when we will have the bridge. So all of that will take some efforts from our parts. So we need to find the capital, like the required capital to build the ecosystem on Phantom. So yeah, we will have also discussion together regarding that in the coming days and weeks. Like it's not yet done, of course. We first need to reach at least $5 million TVL on Phantom, and keep that TVL for at least 2 months. And after we start getting the vested Phantom token from the foundation. But it's really cool, and I suppose like we can do that. 5 million, it's definitely something doable. And after, the next target is crossing the 50 million TVL on Phantom, and we can get more Phantom token from the foundation. So I'll let you imagine what we can do in terms of growth with that, like having the Phantom foundation, like the Phantom token plus the MPH native rewards directly on Phantom. That could be some crazy growth. So really excited by that. And I think that's it for the updates, guys. I promised on Telegram to post on Medium a change log related to what's going on in terms of front end, in terms of contracts, bridge, stuff like that. I will do that end of this week. I was just waiting some new push on our GitHub repo before like doing a big change log. We published one, I think, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I will try to publish it this week if everything is ready. Yep, that's it, Twitter. Thanks for your attention.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks so much for all those updates. Okay, guys, so we are at the end of the call. I invite everyone in the audience to head over to the general chat where we will run our raffle giveaway. So how it works is you have to enter one number in between 1 and 40, and the person who nails it or gets closest to will win our raffle of $100 worth of MPH today. So please head on over to the general chat. Stephen and McFly, we have the number already in our private group. If you guys want to help me find our winner, that would be great. So I'll give everyone around 30 seconds to do so. So feel free to head over to general chat. While we're waiting for everyone to put in their entries, I just want to thank Mike so much for coming out today with us and being our guest. We really enjoyed having you on the show with us. We really hope that you guys see continued success in everything that you guys do, and we actually hope that we'll have you on with us, in the near future. So really looking forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope that the community is excited about real-time finance as a whole. And if you guys want to work with us at any time or co-sponsors any bounties, just shout and we'll do.
Yeah, like regarding that, Mike, I reached out to Polygon regarding the next hackathon, but I didn't get any answer yet. So I'm just waiting after them, but definitely open to do joint bounty.
Sure, let's rock it.
Perfect. Okay, guys, we are closing off the raffle in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And our winner is MF Jerky. Congratulations. Okay, guys, with that, I want to wish everyone a wonderful day. Thanks for coming out and supporting your favorite project. Have a great day, and we will see you on the next call.